The human brain makes up about 2% of our total body weight, and yet this relatively small organ consumes 20 to 25% of our daily metabolic energy, so our energy intake that we need every day in order to ensure that our body functions properly. Isn't that crazy? This right here is a highly metabolically expensive organ, and of course, it is extremely crucial for a number of other reasons. Therefore, it is only fitting that we have a video that discusses how the brain works, more specifically in the context of a new theory of intelligence. Now, the rest of this video is structured as follows. We are going to shrink ourselves down to the width of a human hair, and we are going to take a walk in each of our respective brains. The video that follows is all scientifically based, other than this obviously one feat of engineering that we're collectively going to accomplish. And the rest of the video is going to be a 3-stop journey. So we will make exactly 3 stops in our brains, and through the course of this journey, I will communicate to you this new theory of intelligence, also known as the 1,000 brain theory of intelligence, based on the book by Jeff Hawkins. Here's what the author has to say about this theory and why it is important. I have one small ask, which applies to everyone. I hope that one day every person on earth will learn how their brain works. I believe everyone should know these things in the same way that everyone should know that the earth orbits the sun, and that DNA molecules encode our genes, and that dinosaurs lived on earth for millions of years but are now extinct. This is important. I have to warn you before we continue. We will be drawing up some analogies to help us better understand this theory that might make the rest of this video feel like a fever dream. It is going to be bizarre, it is going to be unsettling, but this is exactly why we need to talk about it. Let's go. So now we have shrunk down to the desired width that enables us to step inside each of our own brains. What do you think you're going to expect to see inside? It's pitch black. There is no light, no sound, no smell, nothing. It's just a buzzwork of electrical signals. And yet it is from these very electrical signals that we perceive and sense everything in the world around us. Colors, faces, memories, intuition, even higher concepts like mathematics, philosophy, abstract art, and the concept of pineapple on pizza. So immediately what we notice as we are inside of our brain is that there is a bit of a tug of war going on between 2 distinct brain regions. One is the old brain and one is the new brain. The old brain is going to be the first stop of our journey. So welcome to this stop. The old brain comprises of a couple of older parts of the brain, let's say. They're more primitive, they're ancient, they've been with us, or rather they have evolved for hundreds and millions of years. So the old brain happens to take care of our base emotions like fear, anxiety, worry. It is more impulsive, it is more responsive. If it sees a slice of cake, it wants to completely go for it. It has no self-control, it knows no self-control. The old brain is only responsible for things like reproduction and making sure that we are safe and making sure that we're well fed. So all of these fundamental needs are taken care of by these specific brain regions. So the old brain comprises about 30% of the human brain, versus its diametrical opposite happens to be the new brain, also known as the neocortex. The neocortex is already the second stop on our journey. So the neocortex has been with us for maybe a few million years. This is more of a hardware update, if you will. So this is the brain, the parts of our brain that are formed over the old brain to kind of help and perform certain other functions more effectively and carry out, let's say, the whims and fancies of the old brain, but in a sophisticated way, in a way that makes us human. And actually, this is exactly the part of the brain that truly makes us human and separates us from our genetically similar primate relatives. Our neocortex occupies about 70% of our entire brain volume. The neocortex is exactly the part of the brain that helps us in higher order thinking, language, logic, analytical thinking, delayed gratification, and self-control. So in our cake analogy, if we go back to that, if we see a slice of cake, let's say we know we're dieting, let's say we've already had cake the previous day or what have you, and we know that this is not a good idea for us to go for it. While the old brain is still going to want to get that slice of cake, it is our new brain that will remind us that this is not a good idea and hold us back. So really, I want you to think about any kind of conflict that maybe you had in your life recently where you wanted to go for something, but you knew that was not exactly the right call for you in the moment. This exactly is the tug of war between the old brain and the new brain. Now that we've remained on the new brain for a bit, let us try to visualize it, right? What does it even look like? When we think of the human brain, we immediately think of the number of fissures and grooves. What happens if we were to now take it out, lay it flat on a table, right? This is what the neocortex would look like, and it is about the size and width of a dinner napkin. And now we're going to take a walk on this dinner napkin, so our own neocortical surfaces. By the way, another fun fact. As I'm making this video, it is my neocortex that is active. And as you're watching this video, it is your neocortex that is active and responding to this new information, because the neocortex is also an instrument of creativity. And all of this is tied to the part of the brain that we're walking on right now on this dinner napkin. Now, all of a sudden, there are columns that start to take shape all around us. They're spiking up from the ground. And we notice that in the blink of an eye, we are surrounded by a wall of columns, but these are very fine columns, almost like spaghetti strands. Now, each of these columns is what comprises the neocortex, and this is known as a cortical column. The cortical column is going to be the third and final stop of our journey, and this is where we flesh out the theory of intelligence. So we notice something very fascinating with the cortical columns, because each of these columns themselves are intelligence hubs. They're all mini computers that help the neocortex perform and function and do what it does best. Now, when we zoom in on one column, so let's take one strand of spaghetti, what do we see on the inside? According to the book, I'm not making this up, the spaghetti itself is packed full, jam-packed really, with hair-like fine structures, each of which is actually, in our original brain analogy, is comprised of neurons. So if we zoom out, there are hundreds of strings of neurons stuffed within these cortical columns. What do these cortical columns do? First of all, they make each of us giant prediction machines. So we're walking, talking prediction machines. What does that mean? Now, imagine you're walking outside and all of a sudden you notice a whale floating in the sky. What are you going to do? Obviously, you're going to do a double take. You will be very startled. You will start to question your perception of reality. This is exactly the kind of workings of these cortical columns, because each of us already have an inbuilt perception of reality. We know what a sane and sound world should look like. Anything that we see that does not conform to this perception of reality is immediately called out and flagged by these cortical columns. And this is why it is called the 1,000 brain theory of intelligence. Our brain is actually fragmented into thousands of brains, and each of these have models of what the world should look like. Information is distributed across thousands of columns throughout the neocortex, with each column mapping or modeling a piece of information about the world.